Let's settle an age-old debate that has haunted Bikini Bottom for years. Is the Krusty Krab actually better than the Chum bucket? Sure, on the surface, the Krusty Krab seems like the shining star of Bikini Bottom's food scene. It's got the famous Krabby Patty, a loyal customer base, and a catchy jingle that lives rent-free in everyone's heads. Meanwhile, the Chum bucket is basically a deserted wasteland where hopes, dreams, and taste buds go to die. But what if I told you the Krusty Krab might not be as squeaky clean as it seems? In fact, it might be worse than the Chum bucket. Yeah, I said it. Let's dive into the grease trap of questionable hygiene, shady practices, and overall chaos that makes the Krusty Krab the true menace of Bikini Bottom. The hygiene nightmare. Okay, first off, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the grease stain on the floor that's probably older than SpongeBob's employee uniform. The Krusty Krab is filthy. Have you ever noticed that the walls have this permanent layer of grime that looks like it's been marinated in fryer oil? The floors are stickier than a jellyfish field during jellyfish mating season. And don't even get me started on that grill. SpongeBob scrapes it with a spatula like he's chiseling hieroglyphs. But do we ever see him clean it properly? Nope. That thing is a bacteria paradise. One bad scrape away from creating a new underwater pandemic. Now, contrast that with the Chum bucket. Sure, the food there is literal garbage, or at least it tastes like it, but the place is eerily clean. It's sterile, almost too sterile, like a dystopian hospital cafeteria. But hey, at least you know Plankton isn't cutting corners with hygiene. Karen, his computer wife, probably keeps the place spotless. So, while the Chum bucket might serve you a questionable pile of sludge, at least you're not worried about contracting 17 diseases while you eat it. SpongeBob's cooking practices. Listen, we all love SpongeBob. He's passionate, dedicated, and the happiest fry cook in the sea. But passion doesn't equal hygiene. The guy sings, dances, and karate chops his way through the kitchen, all while handling raw patties, buns, and lettuce with his bare hands. Have you ever seen him wash his hands? I haven't. And the amount of bodily fluids this guy probably adds to your burger unintentionally is alarming. Tears, sweat, drool, you name it. It's probably been on your Krabby Patty at least once. Oh, and let's not forget the time he and Mr. Krabs tried to feed a nasty patty, a literal biohazard, to a health inspector. Sure, it was a misunderstanding, but the fact that the nasty patty even existed is concerning. If they can whip up something that dangerous on a whim, who's to say they aren't cutting corners on a regular basis? Krabs, the king of cost cutting. Speaking of corners, Mr. Krabs doesn't just cut them. He slices, dices, and deep fries them. This man's entire business model revolves around spending as little as possible while charging as much as he can. Cleaning supplies? Too expensive. Employee benefits? Forget it. Fryer oil? He's probably been reusing the same batch since the place opened. If he can't be bothered to pay Squidward more than a few cents an hour, do you really think he's investing in a decent mop? Plankton, on the other hand, may be a villain, but at least he's transparent about his goals. He wants to steal the Krabby Patty formula and take over the world straightforward, if nothing else. Mr. Krabs, however, pretends to be a respectable businessman while nickel-and-diming his way into oblivion. If there's a roach problem at the Krusty Krab, and let's be honest, there probably is, Krabs isn't calling an exterminator. He's just throwing the roaches on the grill and calling them Krabby Patty toppings. Employee morale. Now, let's talk about the working conditions. Squidward hates his life. That's not an exaggeration. The man has openly stated multiple times that he despises his job, his boss, and most of the customers. When your cashier is radiating that much negativity, you have to wonder what kind of energy he's bringing to your food. And let's be real, Squidward definitely spits in the burgers of customers who annoy him. Meanwhile, SpongeBob is so overworked and overzealous that he's one bad shift away from a mental breakdown. The Krusty Krab is not a happy workplace. It's a pressure cooker of despair. Over at the Chum bucket, Plankton's only employee is Karen, and while she's a bit snarky, she at least seems to enjoy her job. She's efficient, she's organized, and she's not sneezing into your food because she doesn't have a nose. Honestly, if I had to pick between a disgruntled cashier and a sassy computer, I'd go with Karen every time. The secret formula conspiracy. The Krabby Patty secret formula is the stuff of legend, but Has anyone stopped to think about why it's such a secret? What's in it that's so controversial, so dangerous, that Mr. Krabs has to lock it away in a vault and hire SpongeBob to guard it with his life? Is it even legal? Even food? Meanwhile, Plankton's chum might be gross, but at least he's not hiding anything. You know what you're getting when you order chum. It's probably a mix of fish parts and disappointment. The Krusty Krab, on the other hand, is selling you a mystery patty with a side of lies. Customer experience. Let's face it, the Krusty Krab isn't exactly the pinnacle of fine dining. The seating is uncomfortable, the music is Squidward's clarinet solos, yikes, and the wait times can be absurd. The place is always packed, which is great for Mr. Krabs, but terrible for the customers. Don't even think about using the bathroom. If the kitchen is that gross, imagine what the restroom looks like. The chum bucket might not have customers, but at least you won't have to fight for a table or sit next to some dude slurping soda through his gills. It's quiet, it's clean, and it's probably the only restaurant in Bikini Bottom where you can enjoy your meal in peace, even if that meal tastes like sadness. Final verdict. The Krusty Krab has fooled us all into thinking it's the gold standard of underwater dining, but when you peel back the layers and the grease, it's clear that it's a disaster waiting to happen. From the questionable hygiene to the shady business practices, it's a miracle anyone walks out of there without food poisoning. The chum bucket might not be good, but at least it's honest about what it is. Bad food in a clean environment. If I had to choose between the two, I might just risk it at the chum bucket. At least there, I know what I'm getting, pure, unfiltered, chum-flavored disappointment.